Hello, welcome, and the weekly portions with the Ramchal in this series. And now we are talking about the Behaalotcha portion, and let's see what the Ramchal is revealing to us. וידבר Hashem el Moshe lemor, and God spoke into Moses, saying, דבר אל אהרון ואמרת עליו, בהעלותך את הנרות אל מול פני המנורה, יראו 7 הנרות. Speaking to Aaron and saying to him, when you went through light as the lamp, the 7 lamps shall give the light in front of the candlestick. Okay, and so the tribal leaders brought their own offerings for the construction of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, and therefore they left Aaron alone. So he was left to light the menorah with his energy. So there is a parallelity that is drawn between the 12 leaders of the 12 tribes and Aaron, that he was lighting the menorah. Basically, the leaders, they were self-sacrificing and gave donations at the time, and these 2 actions are being compared. Okay, so according to Chazal, the lightening the menorah elevates is much elevated, but much higher than what the leaders of the 12 tribes were doing. This is very significant, a major point of here, because if we acknowledge that the selfless and loving giving with a high level of understanding all these actions itself, it's being a lower state than one person lights the menorah, that is very remarkable. So Aaron lights the menorah alone, and this act suppresses the donations of the tribal leaders. So let's examine the hidden meaning of this. So the light of the menorah holds a special significance. In creation, the light was the first thing that was created. What if we couldn't see, okay, if the light couldn't break through, our world would be plunged into darkness. Here too, the light of the menorah was very important indeed to illuminate the intentions of the significance of the tribal leaders' donation, adding to that action and extra energy. So the light of the menorah is located in the spiritual world at the level of Atzilut, just below the highest level, that is Bria. The creation is the highest level above that. So Aaron is being a Kohen, and therefore the Kohens are associated with the Sephira of Chesed, meditated to this lower level during the light of the fire. As a Kohen, he represents the Chesed energy, and creating then by lighting the menorah, that created another Sephira of the Din, of the judgment, during the lightening of the menorah. So the 7th branch of it is representing the 7 lower Sephirot in the word of the Sephirot. And this is also corresponding to the 7 days of the week. So each day, each branch is one day during the week. And the word of the Sephirot in the 7 lower Sephirot is we have altogether 10 Sephirot, and the lower 7 and the upper 3. The upper 3 is related to a very high level of energy, basically beyond human comprehension. So most of the time we are talking only about the 7 Sephirot. It is important that the menorah was made out of a single piece of gold, formed as in one unit, and not assembled from separate parts. So one could imagine basically that designing it, we could be making out of many pieces, and then we would assembling in one piece precisely. But the phrase that is used here in the language of the Torah, it is called Miksha Zahav. Miksha is meaning kashe, which means difficult. So this is originating from the impurity, the tuma that it's very difficult to create something completely pure in our world, because we have many influences by the circumstances, and so therefore it is not easy. So menorah could have been made of silver as well, okay, but why it wasn't made of gold? What was the reason? What is the significance? So the silver is associated with the chesed, the givingness, while gold is associated with the judgment of din. So the fire was lit by Aaron, that he's a Kohen, and he would like to consciously strengthen the din, the judgmental part, and also silver is also reinforces the din part. Okay, so that is how it is making balance out of the chesed and the din. וזה מעשה המנורה, מקשה זהב עד ירקה עד פרחה, מקשה הוא, כמראה אשר הרי השם את משה, כן עשה את המנורה. And this was the work of the candlesticks, between work of gold into the base thereof and into the flowers thereof. It was beaten work according to the pattern which God had shown Moses, so he made the candlestick. So the design of the menorah was very difficult due to the presence of the power of tumah, the impurity. Therefore, God himself made the creation. So why was it very important that Moses was involved in creating the menorah? So Moses was the one who heated the gold in the fire, and the menorah emerged on its own in a perfect unity. That action is corresponding to the rectification of the sin of the golden calf, which also emerged from the fire. So the golden calf also came out of the fire in one piece, and Moses basically is trying to counterbalance this idolatrous statue of the golden calf, which embodies negativity. So that was the golden calf story, and now we are balancing it with the creation of the menorah, okay, balancing this negative action. וידבר Hashem el Moshe lemor, and God spoke into Moses saying, קח את הלוויים מתוך בני ישראל ותחרת אותם. Take the Levites from among the children of Israel and cleanse them. So when the Levites were consecrated, the spiritual energy which is connected to the din, the judgment, needed to be balanced with a bit of chesed, kindness. So the din energy of the Levites benefits from being balanced with some chesed. So this is what's going on. Each time it is good to have balancing all these energies, right? They used to this ability when it was necessary to determine the appropriate punishment during the time of the temple. Depending on what we do, there are consequences for everything. This is where individuals feel free to manifest. If we do good, we are rewarded. If we do wrong, we are punished. In theory, everyone knows it, but in manifesting, in reality, basically, then it takes the man to realize. Judgment and evil forces belong to the same category. What is the role? With our free will, we can choose to do good or evil. If only good existing, okay, we wouldn't have no choice in the world. So it is through our choices that we receive reward or punishment, if you would be thinking. So the whole system wouldn't work, and we couldn't perfect ourselves. Okay. So part of this goal is that a bit of chesed must be added to the din energy of the Levites, so they can also provide positive reinforcement. For example, the sinners who come to them. So the ritual included pouring water over the Levites, thus imparting from the energy of chesed. Okay, so the Levites were the din, and they were using the energy of the water. So why did Moses have to carry out this process with the Levites? Moses had also a lot of energy with water, so this is what is connected to the Sephirah of Chesed that we mentioned. Also, he was found in the Nile. וידע הילד וטבעוהו לבת פרעה, ויהי לה לבן ותקרא שמו משה, ותאמר כי מן המים משיתהו. And the child grew and brought up into Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called her name Moses and said, because I drew him out of water. So Moses' name is indicating that he was found in the river, in the Nile. It means I drew him out of the water. So during the first 7 days of the Mishkan, also Moses was responsible for everything that was going on, the offerings over there, presenting the offerings and performing the rituals. He consecrated both the Kohanim and the Levites. As part of this ceremony, they also used the Hatat water. Hazeh alechem mi hatat. To cleanse them, sprinkle the water on purification upon them. Literally purifying water, it is cleansed on the Levites of their sins during their consecration. וביום הקים את המשכן, כיסא הענן, את המשכן לאוכל העדות, בערב יהיה על המשכן כמראה אש עד בבוקר. And on the day the tabernacle was reared up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, even the tent of the testimony, and even there was upon the tabernacle as it were to appearance of fire until morning. So the Mishkan, the tent of the meeting, is the desert was dwelling where God is found. The Ohel not only means tent, but also referring to the spiritual alma mater to which one can return. During the day, Chesed, kindness, is more visible, obviously, and at night, the darkness, the dim judgment, is more apparent. ולפי העלות הענן מעל האוכל ואחרי כן יישאו בני ישראל במקום אשר ישכן שם הענן, שם יחנוכו בני ישראל. And whenever the cloud was taken upon up from over the tent, then after, and the children of Israel journeyed, and in the place where the cloud abode, there the children of Israel encamped. So the mentioned clouds appeared at night, indicating that the next day they would need to move on. The Israelites, they couldn't only travel during the day. This is during the daytime. It was the traveling time, because at that time they could see the Chesed, the Kaides. Sorry, they always had to watch the clouds, okay, because they were the signals for where to move forward. They accomplished something that they counted their journey. So during these 40 years of wandering, they always had to follow the clouds. When we think about it, in a desert, it is a very dangerous place altogether. You are abandoned there, where anything could happen. So the Jewish people had to keep their consciousness elevated, and only that they were elevated and also connected with God. What determined how long the Jewish people stayed in a certain place, basically? Very simple. It is depending on how much tuma, negativity, was held in that place. So God's kindness was also manifested in calming his people through the clouds. So God didn't need a physical sign, okay? So the clouds, it was showing for the people, okay, that the presence of God, that was the sign that he's taking care of Bnei Israel. And therefore he was presented in the physical realm to reassure the Jewish people. ויצאו משה וידבר אל העם את דברי השם ויאסוף 70 איש מזקני העם ויעמוד אותם סביבות האוכל. And Moses went out and told the people the words of God, and gathered 70 men of elders of the people and set them around about the tent. So God spoke to Moses, instructed him to select 70 wise men who through their life experiences and wisdom would assist him as the top, as among the top leaders. So he needed these 70 people to give advice. וירד השם בענן וידבר עליו ויצאו מן הרוח אשר עליו וייתן על 70 איש הזקני ויהי כנוח עליכם הרוח ויתנו ולא יספו. And God came down in the cloud and spoke into him and took of the spirit that was upon him and put it on 70 elders. And it came to pass that they were with the spirit rested upon them. They prophesied, but they did not so more. So these wise men were also endowed with a prophetic wisdom corresponding to the level of Ruach, the third level of the soul. If we have Neshama at the top, Ruach in the middle, and Nefesh at the bottom. So the this nefesh is the lowest part of the soul. They receive wisdom corresponding to the level of ruach. So Moses stood at the highest spiritual level, corresponded to the level of neshama. ויהיו כנוח עליכם הרוח ויטבעו ולא יספו. And the spirit rested upon them and prophesied, but they did so no more. Moses had long been at a very high spiritual level, and basically he remained at this level. These 70 elders that were picked right now during this portion reached a spiritual height only after this selection. So also, for instance, King Saul also attained the spiritual level on the day of his coronation, enabling him to convey divine messages. So the numerical value of the word Chayim, life, that we have a chet, a yud, and a mem is totaling 68. So out of the 70 elders, there were 68 were able to see into the future at much higher level, while the remaining 2 were at a lower kind of level. So these 68 were symbolizing to the Chayim, the life, were responsible for matters of life. In contrast, the remaining 2 elders that had to attend to matters concerning death. So thus their tasks were different. While the 2 elders remained in the camp, the 68 elders at the high level were around the Mishkan itself. Okay, so they had these 2 positions among the 70 elders. וידבר מרים ואהרון ומשה אל אודות האישה הכושית אשר לקח כי אישה הכושית לקח. Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushita woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushita. We all know that the female soul is more talkative generally than a male soul, and it may even speak up to, it is 9 times more, okay, that the female soul is speaking more than the man. The negative that is associated with the speech that is called the Lashon Hara, that is a gossip, a negative talk, is known from the story of the Garden of Eden. So why did I bring this up now? Unfortunately, even the greatest individuals can commit Lashon Hara, evil speech. So it is very crucial that we be careful about what we speak of. Miriam's Moses' sister spoke critically about her brother because she didn't really understand that the whole picture, the story, what is going on. God commanded Moses to refrain from intimacy with his wife. So Miriam mentioned this because she was concerned that Moses might deprive himself of earthly pleasures due to asceticism. According to Rashi, the numerical value of the Kushita that we have here is 736, and the same as Ifat Mareh, beautiful appearance, which is also 736. But, so in that case, like Miriam wasn't saying that she meant beautiful appearance of his wife. וידבר מרים ואהרון ומשה אל אודות האישה הכושית אשר לקח כי אישה הכושית לקח. So Miriam sarcastically asked if Moses had married a Cushita woman because he did not desire to be with her. So according to Rashi, Miriam knew that Moses' wife Zipporah was very beautiful and was aware of it. So God was constantly with Moses, who had reached a very high spiritual level, and endeavored to maintain the spiritual height, thus needing to prioritize and earthly matters less. Okay, so which was very difficult to understand on the human level if you are thinking. So he need to be remain in the high level, so not to be affected by lower levels. So Miriam also operated on a very high prophetical spiritual level, but as a consequence of her speech that she was talking right now, creative warned her, and she contracted to tzara'at, leprosy, due to Lashon Hara. So this was the sign of the Lashon Hara on her. And earlier we discussed how basically the priest healed the Lashon Hara, the tzara'at, during the time of the temple. So this was for today. Sorry about the late hours, and see you next week. Thank you.